In this video, we have one trig equation to solve in the interval from 0 to 2 pi, that is x greater than or equal to 0, but less than 2 pi. Now, when you're solving a trig equation, whenever possible, try to write the equation in terms of one trig function. Unless you have it factored out, you have a product, and you have it equal to 0, it'll work out okay. In this case, I have a Pythagorean identity that states 1 plus tangent squared of any angle, theta, x, what do you want to call it? Here we're dealing with x, I'll put an x here, is equal to secant squared of that same angle. That means I can replace this tangent squared. I take the 1 over to this side, then I got tangent squared of x is equal to secant squared of x minus 1. So we can replace this tangent squared by secant squared of x minus 1. And then we can clear the fraction just by multiplying by 2 here. That'll give me a 2 secant squared of x, and then I get a minus 2 here. Then 3 halves multiplied by 2 cancels the 2 here, the denominator, gives me a 3 secant of x. Now we have everything in terms of secant. Of course, we have some constants also. So let's rewrite it. It's 2 secant squared. Bring the 3 secant x over, makes a minus 3 secant x minus 2 equal to 0. Now we have a quadratic equation in the variable x. So this is secant squared of x. So we can just factor this out. So 2 secant of x times secant of x gives me the secant squared of x. It checks out. Minus 2 times 1 is minus 2. I get the third term over here. And multiplying the inner terms here, I get secant of x. Outer terms over here, I get minus 4 secant of x. Add them up, I get minus 3 secant of x. So it checks out. So once you have the product of two factors equal to 0, you set each factor equal to 0. So if I set this factor equal to 0, I get 2 secant of x plus 1 equal to 0. Take the 1 over and divide by 2. So from this equation, I get secant of x is equal to minus 1/2. And from this one, set it equal to 0, secant of x minus 2 equal to 0, because we have a product equal to 0, so one factor can be 0, or they both can be 0. So setting this secant x minus 2 equal to 0, adding 2 to both sides, I get secant of x equal to 2. So you get two equations. You solve each equation, just like it was the only one given, for solutions in this interval. Now if it has one solution, it's going to have an infinite number, but we're only interested in the ones from 0 to 2 pi, including 0, but not the 2 pi. So let's look at the first one here. Secant of x is equal to negative 1/2. If you just think of the graph of secant, opens up this way, with 1 and minus 1. So the graph is outside the values of 1 and negative 1. So in other words, secant of x is always greater than or equal to negative 1, or I should say 1, always greater than or equal to 1, or secant of x is always less than or equal to minus 1. Cannot have a value between negative 1 and 1. It's always either greater than or equal to 1, or less than or equal to negative 1. So what I'm saying here is this equation here has no solution. So you write the empty set, we say no solution. Now if you think of your right triangle, it's a right triangle, say this is 60 here, 60 degrees, and this one here is 45, I'm sorry, 30. But I'm only interested in this one here. This opposite side is the square root of 3, and this is 1, and this is 2. So 30 degrees here, and then 60 degrees here. The secant of 60 degrees is the hypotenuse over the adjacent. The cosine is just the opposite, the adjacent over the hypotenuse. So here we have secant of x is equal to 2. So the angle that has a secant of 2, opposite, or hypotenuse rather, over the adjacent is 60 degrees. So this is, one answer would be pi over 3. In degrees, that's 60 degrees. So if you look at your coordinate system, So 60 degrees is here, and this is your 2 here. That's your reference angle. So I can have another solution. Remember, I want the solution where the secant comes out positive. So the secant will come out positive in the first quadrant and in the fourth quadrant, because that's the situation where the x value on the terminal side of the angle is positive. Any point, the x value on that terminal side will be positive. So the solution set then would be this angle here, 60 degrees. This is your reference angle. So we go all the way this way. This would be 60 here, and all the way around is 360. So all the way around this way, that's going to be 300 degrees. And in radians, that's 5 pi over 3. This pi over 3 is 60 times 5 is 300. So the two answers in the interval from 0 to 2 pi in radians is right here. Pi over 3 and 5 pi over 3. Or in degrees, if you want it, 60 degrees and 300 degrees. And of course, you can check your equation here and hit check out. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.